the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York, which encompasses the boroughs of Manhattan and the Bronx in New York City, along with Dutchess, Orange, Putnam, Rockland, Sullivan, and Westchester counties. The office prosecutes cases involving violations of federal laws, and represents the interests of the United States government and its agencies in criminal and civil matters. The office investigates and prosecutes a broad array of criminal conduct of every conceivable magnitude, even when the conduct arises in distant places. Today, the office is at the forefront of many important areas of criminal law enforcement, including terrorism, white-collar and cybercrime, mortgage fraud, public corruption, gang violence, organized crime, international narcotics trafficking and civil rights violations. Similarly, the office litigates among the most complex and significant civil cases the Department of Justice handles, from large affirmative civil fraud cases to cases in the environmental, healthcare, immigration, and bankruptcy areas, as well as cases implicating classified information. June 10, 2024. Former police officer sentenced to 4 consecutive life sentences for 2016 quadruple murder. Damian Williams, the United States Attorney for the Southern District of New York, announced that Nicholas Tartaglione was sentenced today to 4 consecutive life sentences for his leadership role in the 2016 murders of Martin Luna, Urbano Santiago, Miguel Luna, and Hector Gutierrez. Tartaglione, who is a former police officer, orchestrated the kidnapping and murders of all 4 victims on April 11, 2016. Tartaglione was sentenced today by U.S. District Judge Kenneth M. Carras. U.S. Attorney Damian Williams said, Nicholas Tartaglione brutally and senselessly murdered Martin Luna over money, and then ruthlessly executed Urbano Santiago, Miguel Luna, and Hector Gutierrez simply because they were in the wrong place at the wrong time. He tried to cover up his crimes by burying all 4 victims in a shallow grave on his property. Thanks to the tireless efforts of countless law enforcement officers at the federal, state, and local level, and the relentless pursuit of justice by the career prosecutors in my office, Tartaglione has now been held accountable for his reprehensible crimes. Today's sentence of 4 consecutive life terms justly reflects the pain and suffering each victim underwent at Tartaglione's hands. I hope that this outcome brings some measure of closure to the victims' families and to their community. According to the allegations contained in the indictment, the evidence offered at trial, statements made in open court, and matters included in public filings. On April 11, 2016, Nicholas Tartaglione, a former police officer, orchestrated the kidnapping and murders of Martin Luna, Urbano Santiago, Miguel Luna, and Hector Gutierrez. Martin was 41 years old when he died. Urbano was Martin's nephew by marriage and was 35 years old when he died. Miguel was Martin's nephew and was 25 years old when he died. Hector was a close family friend of all 3 and was 43 years old when he died. All 4 victims left behind a loving family, and many of their family members attended the trial in this case. Martin was killed because Tartaglione believed Martin had stolen approximately $250,000, meant for the purchase of cocaine. Tartaglione tortured Martin by restraining him and beating him for over an hour. But when Martin did not provide the location of the missing money, Tartaglione strangled Martin to death with a zip tie. Urbano, Miguel, and Hector were killed each with a single gunshot to the back of the head. Execution style because they witnessed Martin's murder and were in the wrong place at the wrong time. Tartaglione buried all 4 victims in a mass grave on his remote property in Otisville, New York. The 4 victims remained in the ground until the Federal Bureau of Investigations, FBI, Hudson Valley Safe Streets Task Force located the grave in December 2016. At today's sentencing, Judge Carras described Tartaglione as a monster who has shown no remorse for his conduct. April 11, 2024. NYC corrections officers charged for smuggling illegal drugs into Rikers Island, taking bribes. The suspects used coded communications such as describing a Picture of marijuana as nuggets and an officer willing to bring in drugs. As an Uber, prosecutors said. 3 former correction officers, a contractor, and a program counselor were charged in Manhattan federal court for smuggling a drugstore's worth of illegal narcotics into 2 different Rikers Island jails, officials said Tuesday. Former correction officers Carlos Rivera, Chantal de los Santos and Stephanie Davila were charged with bringing in oxycodone, fentanyl, K2 and marijuana in exchange for bribes between December 2021 and February 2022, federal prosecutors said. Former program counselor Shaniqua Washington and ex-contractor Kenneth Webster were accused of involvement in the conspiracy, as was former detainee Christopher Francisco, currently in state prison. Rikers Island is less safe, for inmates and officers alike, when corrections officers and others in positions of public trust accept bribes to smuggle contraband. U.S. Attorney Damian Williams said Tuesday. FBI Assistant Director in Charge James Smith added. This alleged conspiracy permeated Rikers Island, polluting the integrity of the department and its institutions. The suspects used coded communications such as describing a picture of marijuana as nuggets and an officer willing to bring in drugs. As an Uber, prosecutors said. Sturdy it up meant packaged drugs for delivery. The officers actually communicated with detainees electronically. The complaint states. At one point, Rivera directed a detainee to cover up the misconduct. Delete these, he allegedly wrote. See you Thursday. Ben did I don't save none when I send it, the detainee replied. The complaint shows. Cell phones and cigarettes were also smuggled. The conspirators arranged their deals using text and social media messages to arrange the exchange of drugs, and they often used phone apps to transfer money, the prosecutors allege. In the wake of the arrests, the City Department of Investigation proposed moving lockers to a place before officers are screened for contraband and bringing open or unsealed containers into the jails. The Correction Department said it would review the recommendations. There is zero tolerance for anyone, staff or visitors, who attempts to bring contraband and narcotics into our jails. Correction Commissioner Lionel Maginley Liddy said in a statement. This illegal behavior endangers the lives of people in custody and our staff. The department is working diligently to improve security and prevent contraband from entering its facilities. June 10, 2024. 2 defendants charged with federal narcotics offenses in connection with the poisoning of 4 children at a Bronx daycare plead guilty. Damian Williams, the United States Attorney for the Southern District of New York, and Darcel D. Clark, the Bronx County District Attorney, announced today that, on the morning he was scheduled to begin trial, Felix Herrera Garcia pled guilty to conspiracy to distribute narcotics resulting in death and serious bodily injury, as well as possession of narcotics with intent to distribute, resulting in death and serious bodily injury, all in connection with the poisoning of 4 children under the age of 3, one of whom died, at a daycare facility in the Bronx, the daycare, on September 15, 2023. Approximately 2 weeks ago, on May 23, 2024, Renny Antonio Parra Paredes pled guilty to conspiring to distribute narcotics and stipulated that his conduct caused death and serious bodily injury in connection with his role in the poisonings. Bronx County District Attorney Darcel D. Clark said. Today, on the morning his trial was set to begin in Manhattan Federal Court, Felix Herrera Garcia pled guilty to conspiracy to distribute narcotics, resulting in death and other federal charges for causing the fatal fentanyl ingestion of 22-month-old Nicholas Dominici and the injury to 3 other babies at the Divino Nino Daycare Center in the Bronx on September 15, 2023. Herrera Garcia has now been held accountable in the tragic loss of little Nicholas, the serious injury of Abel, and the harm to Kiara and Jaziel, as alleged in public filings. From at least in or about October 2022 through at least in or about September 2023. Herrera Garcia, Parra Paredes, and others conspired to distribute fentanyl, parafluorofentanyl, and heroin, including at the daycare. There, despite the daily presence of children, including infants, Herrera Garcia, Parra Paredes, and their co-conspirators maintained large quantities of fentanyl. including more than 10 kilograms of narcotics hidden inside secret compartments or traps, located beneath the floor of the daycare's playroom. As a consequence of the drug conspiracy perpetrated by Herrera Garcia, Para Paredes, and their co-conspirators. On or about September 15, 2023, 4 children at the daycare, who were all under 3 years of age, experienced the effects of poisoning from exposure to fentanyl. 3 of the children were hospitalized. The 4th child, a boy just under 2 years of age, died. Herrera Garcia, 35, of the Bronx, New York, pled guilty to 1 count of conspiracy to distribute narcotics resulting in death and serious bodily injury, 1 count of possession with intent to distribute narcotics resulting in death, and 1 count of possession with intent to distribute narcotics resulting in serious bodily injury. All 3 counts carry a mandatory minimum sentence of 20 years in prison and a maximum sentence of life in prison. Para Paredes, 38, of the Bronx, New York, pled guilty to 1 count of conspiracy to distribute narcotics resulting in death and serious bodily injury, which carries a mandatory minimum sentence of 10 years in prison and a maximum sentence of life in prison. The statutory minimum and maximum sentences are prescribed by Congress and are provided here for informational purposes only, as any sentencing of the defendants will be determined by the judge, the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of California, U.S. Customs and Border Protection, and Mexican federal and state authorities. Equality before the law, also known as equality under the law. Equality in the eyes of the law, legal equality, or legal egalitarianism, is the principle that all people must be equally protected by the law. The rule of law is a political ideal that all citizens and institutions within a country, state, or community are accountable to the same laws, including lawmakers and leaders. It is sometimes stated simply as no one is above the law.